Hi, I'm Dr. Linda Horton, and this is the Helpful Homeschooler. Today, I'm going to be starting a series on elementary economics. Now, what I would like for you to do, you can do however you want to do. What I'd like for you to do is maybe you, as a parent, look at the videos first, see what you think. If you'd like to get all the information together and then teach your child, that's fine. If you would like to sit down with your child and watch them together, that's fine. You're the homeschool teacher, you're the parent. Whatever you want to do is right. I just wanted to give you the information. My first love is to teach. So I'm going to be doing this year a series of classes geared mostly to the elementary middle school. This is good for middle school also. I'd like to do some high school things, but a lot of the homeschoolers are that elementary middle school age. The high school kids, a lot of dual enrolled, and they really have their study habits and things down. So I'm kind of aiming this at elementary middle school for this series, and as I can branch out, I'll let you know. So first of all, this is called What is Economics? Why should we study it? What does the Bible say? Week 1, what does the Bible say about economics? Why do we study it? I'm going to put on my glasses because I'm going to read some things. First of all, everything we do, we go to the Word first. Everything. And I took 2 verses, one out of Timothy, it's 6:9-11, and the second Timothy 3:1-5. If you want your child to get their Bibles and look these up, that'd be great. Always the Word first. This is 1 Timothy 6:9-11. But those who desire to be rich fall into temptation and a snare, and into many foolish and harmful lusts, which drown men in destruction and perdition. For the love of money is a root of all kinds of evil. For them which have strayed from the faith in their greediness and pierced themselves through with many sorrows. But you, O man of God, flee these things and pursue righteousness, godliness, faith, love, patience, and gentleness. I love that. A lot of people say, oh, money is the root of all evil, but that's not what it says. We need to know the word for what the word it says. It says the love of money is a root of all kinds of evil. So then let's go to 2 Timothy 3:1-5. But know this, that in the last days perilous times will come. For men will be lovers of themselves, lovers of money, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy, unloving, unforgiving, slanderers, without self-control, brutal, despisers of good, traitors, headstrong, haughty, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God, having a form of godliness but denying its power. And then it says, and from such people turn away. The things that it says is they will be lovers of money. And then it goes on to list all these other things. When we talk about loving money, there's a prevalent spirit in this world today about getting. And it kind of takes the emphasis off of giving, which is what we are really commanded to do. So as we study money, just keep in mind that we need money. Listen, there is no store, kids, there is no store that I know of that will take Jesus' love in lieu of anything. In other words, I can't go to Walmart and get Legos and say, I'm just going to pay you with the love of Christ. They're not going to take it. They need money. So that's why really we have economics. Economics is a study of goods. It's a study of services. It's the study of how people, when they get money, how they spend money, where they spend money. So it's a science that studies the flow of money and how it all comes together. I don't want to overcomplicate it, but it's really that simple. Just how money is spent and what it's spent on. And as we go on, I have some really cool topics for the kids. Manipulation in the money in kids. I don't want to give it away, but next week is such a must-watch video because it's going to not only enlighten the parents, but enlighten the children. And to me, when I have truth, man, it changes my life. And so next week, I'm going to really hit hard on some truth about how parents and children are both manipulated into buying things that they don't need. So just be aware, next week is going to be wonderful. So we know that from these verses, it doesn't say having money is wrong. It says that loving money is wrong. And we're going to talk today, just give a very simple explanation to how we spend money for the kids. A lot of kids are aware, but some aren't. My grandpa used to say, money does not grow on trees. If you ever said that to your child, you've heard that from a previous generation. I've said that to my children. Money does not grow on trees. That means, for you kids, it has to come from somewhere. Now, your parents earn money. Next week, we're going to talk about, parents be aware, next week we're going to talk about the fact that your parents' money is not your money. This is a great subject too. I love it. So let's talk about, we know how we get money. We get money by working for money. The Bible says if a man doesn't work, he shouldn't eat. So that means that we should all have that want to be working at whatever we're doing. So we are going to talk about today, for the kids, what forms money come in. When I was young, money came in two forms. It came in cash, and you all know what cash is, right? Dollar bills and change. That's called cash. All right? And then the other form that when I was younger, was a check. And so I've put up here, checks are a dying breed these days. So for the kids, I wanted them to see what a check looked like. A check is a piece of paper that people write on. They have their name and address here. And essentially what the check says is to the bank, I have $1,000 in my bank. I want you, bank, to give $217 to Dynamic Family Life. All right? And so you put the date on your check. You put who you're giving the money to, so the bank knows who to give the money to, how much money you're giving, and this is, again, written out. So this is how much money I'm giving numerically, and this is how much money I'm giving written out. Have you ever had those word problems where it says, write out an amount of money, write out 96? You have to do that for a check. So that's just not a frivolous lesson. You need to know how to write out an amount of money. So then it has a memo section, and I put 4 books, and then you have to sign it. A check that is not signed is, I want to say, not a good check, although I know people have said their banks cashed them without them being signed. You need to sign it. Now, one of the things about checks is you cannot give somebody a check unless you have the money in your bank to cover that check. If you do, let's say I have $1,000 in my bank account, and I wrote this check for $2,000. Well, you can't do that. Number one, it's against the law. So you can be arrested for that. But how can the bank give somebody more money than I have? Let me give you an example. My husband gives me $100. And my son comes and he says, I want $200. How much do I have in my hand? $100. Can I give him $200? No. And that's really what a check is. A check is saying, I have enough money in my bank account that I can pay this person this much money. All right, so we know cash, we know check. Then the other really popular way these days is a credit card or a debit card. There's a difference. A debit card is used exactly like a check, except you don't write it out. You use your card, you put it in the machine. Usually they have a chip on them now. You put it in the machine and you put in a code, and it tells that store that the bank, instead of using a check, that the bank will pay them that much money out of your checking account. It's still coming out of your checking account, you're just not writing a check. The other form is a credit card. Now, a credit card is different than a debit card, it's different than a check, and it's different than cash. A credit card is essentially, it's a piece of plastic. And let's say we have a bank called, let's say TD Bank. TD Bank is pretty much everywhere. And so I have a credit card from the bank. And it says on that credit card, I can spend, let's just do it like this. I can spend $5,000. $5,000. Now, I don't have $5,000, but they're lending me $5,000. So I take the credit card and I go to Walmart and I spend $1,000. I just signed for it. So then the bank says, okay, you've spent $1,000. Now you owe us that $1,000. So then let's say I go to 4 more stores. I've spent $5,000. That's called my limit. I've spent my limit. So the bank says, okay, you have 30 days. In 30 days, you pay us that whole $5,000, or the next month, after the 30 days, if you don't pay us that $5,000, you owe us $5,000 plus, let's say, 50. All right, so now instead of owing them $5,000, I owe them $5,050. That $50 is called interest. So I'm paying them to use their money. Now, I wrote some statistics here. NerdWallet, which is it keeps track of people and what they spend, said the average credit card debt in America is over $16,000. That $16,000 looks like this. That's $16,000. Of that $16,000, the interest that's going to be owed on that, let me erase my beautiful stuff here. The interest that's going to be owed on that is over with almost, let's say almost, we're going to round it out, $1,300. So in other words, that $1,300, I'm paying to somebody to use their money. What could you do with $1,300? That's $1,300. What could you buy with $1,300? You could buy a lot, right? Well, that's what the average American is paying every year to use somebody else's money. Now, credit cards are a great tool. You don't want to carry cash, you carry your credit card, you use it, but you really need to pay it back within 30 days or you're going to owe interest. Let's put it like this. You say to your mom, I want to borrow $10. Mom says, great, I'll give you $10. Borrow. Now, borrow doesn't mean it's yours. Borrow means she's letting you use it. So mom says, cool, you can have the $10. And you say, great. So mom gives you $10. Cool beans, right? Then mom says, but when you pay me back, if you don't pay me back in this month, next month you're going to owe me $11. And she says, and if you don't pay me back next month, then that month, the next month you're going to owe me $12. That's what interest is. The more you borrow, the more you owe in interest, the more you have to pay. Now, the other way of using getting things. Let's say the other way of obtaining things is called the barter system. Here's how the barter system works. It's really cool. I might have 2 refrigerators, but I don't have a stove. So I call my friend Fred, and I say, Fred, I have an extra refrigerator. I heard you need one, but I also heard you have an extra stove. I want to trade you my refrigerator for your stove. And he says, cool, let's do it. Now it's trading, but that's what bartering is. Bartering is like, a good word would be to negotiate for things. All right, let me give you another one. I bake bread. I bake some really good bread. Well, I use really good ingredients, so my bread is really high quality. And my friend washes cars. And so he calls me and he says, hey, I'll wash your car for 2 weeks if you'll give me 2 loaves of bread. That's bartering. I'm negotiating. I'm trading him something for something else. And the barter system used to be how they would do things. Think about it. Indians would trade beads for goods at a store, or they would trade fur. That's bartering. There's not as much bartering today. There are, I think, specific sites for people that want to barter. And the cool thing about bartering is you're using something that you have that you don't use to get something that you want. All right? So, of all the methods we've talked about, checks, cash, debit, credit, and bartering, the only thing on that list that costs you money is credit cards. If you don't pay it back in a certain amount of time, you're going to pay them to use their money. And one of the reasons we're doing this economics class is a lot of times when children get older, they don't understand how things work and they get a credit card. And they just spend. And then at the end, it's so much interest. If you, like, let's say, I'm going to exaggerate these numbers just a little bit, but it's really so close to the truth. I put $20,000 on my credit card and I only pay the basic every month. I might end up paying back $100,000. That's why credit cards are so dangerous. But children aren't taught what money is, how to spend it, what it looks like. And so nobody knows going into adulthood, even young adults, how to handle money. That's what this class is about. This class is about teaching you to be responsible with money, to give you some thinking about what really things cost. Now, I wanted you to not only know about money just because you need to, but to be wise. We should be wise in everything we do. And it's not God's best for us to be so deep in debt that we have no money to do other things. I know a lot of people that will not give tithes and offering to the church because they have so much other debt. And that's not God's best for them to be in so much debt. So I want you, as a student especially, to think about what debt is. Debt is when you owe something to someone. That's a debt. All right? Now, next week I have homework for you. This week I want you to talk to 5 people. 5. Mom and Dad count as one person, okay? And ask them what method of money they use most. Do they use cash? Do they use checks? Do they use a debit card? Do they use a credit card? Or do they barter? I want you to find that out. I want you to find out if they use their credit card, are they paying interest? Do not ask how much. That's rude. That's really personal, okay? But find out, because then you're kind of understand, okay, they're paying somebody else to use somebody else's money. All right? If they say they barter a lot, ask them what kind of deals they've made. I would really be interested in that. Then I want you to make a deal with somebody by bartering. Now, I don't care if it's a service you give somebody, or say for instance, you'll wash your mom and dad's car if they will take you to the movies. Or you'll go to grandma's and dust her whole house for a plate of cookies. Bartering. Bartering means an exchange of goods. Okay, so I'm giving you something, you're giving me something. All right, so remember, when you barter, money is not involved. Money is never involved in bartering. So when you barter with somebody, I want you to say, okay, I'm going to do this for you, or I'm going to give you this and you give me that. Another example of bartering is, let's say your cousin has the game Clue. They have a couple of Clue games. And you have a couple of aggravation games. You say, I'll give you an aggravation game if you'll give me a Clue game. That's bartering. Always get your parents' permission before you give anything away from your home. Do not just give anything away. Ask your parents first. But I know people that have, let me rephrase that. I know a man. He had a big testimony about how his first house, he traded a car for a house, and the house was dilapidated. And so he bartered, okay? He said, I'll give you my car, you give me your house. And they said, sure. And so he worked on this house. And then he traded that house for another house. And then he traded that house for another house, until he had this great, big, beautiful house, and he didn't pay for it. He bartered his way to it. So bartering can be a really cool thing. All right? Listen, I love you guys. Remember, homeschooling is not a sprint, it's a marathon. And we do it as a family. So go out and enjoy the adventure. Don't forget to tune in next week. Bye.